Well, I think we need to stop the third world coming to Britain. We cannot take any more of it, can we? We have simply had enough. And Donald Trump has just enacted a ban on immigration from third world countries. And I frankly think we need to do the same ourselves. If not, go further. Firstly, let's dig into just a few statistics. Foreign nationals make up just 12% of our adult population, yet they account for 12.4% of the prison population as of June 2025. Seems proportional on paper, doesn't it? But dig a little bit deeper and statistics don't lie. Non-UK citizens are overrepresented in convictions for narcotics and fraud, for example. Albanian nationals are arrested at a rate of 209.8 per 1,000 in the population. That's 17 times higher than British citizens. They top the crime league table for arrests per capita, with 1 in 50 Albanians in the UK imprisoned, often for drugs or organised crime. And Afghans show overrepresentation in certain conviction categories such as sexual offences, relative to their population size, of course. And on child sex offences, foreign nationals make up 10% of the population, but account for around 15% of convictions. Groups from Albania, Iran and Afghanistan show stark overrepresentation in our jails relative to the tiny numbers that live here. And the numbers keep on climbing. Foreign prisoners have swelled to over 10,700 by late 2025, clogging up our cells while you at home, the British taxpayers, are footing the bill. Mass immigration from the third world isn't just about crime, though, is it? It is a bulldozer through our way of life. And Baroness Louise Casey's damning 2016 report laid it out. Entire areas of Britain have changed beyond recognition in mere years, with communities feeling like strangers in their own land. Prime Minister Keir Starmer himself even said, without immigration rules, Britain is at risk of becoming a, quote, island of strangers. Funny that, isn't it? Around 3/4 of Brits perceive high tensions between immigrants and UK-born people, with immigration seen as deepening divisions and contributing to challenges like parallel societies, where issues such as female genital mutilation, forced marriages, honour-based violence, surges in anti-Semitism, cousin marriage, all these things persist. And it's clear to me, we're not integrating. People are not integrating. We are segregating. White British people are set to be a minority by the mid-2060s, according to some reports. And someone please tell me how that's a desirable outcome, because it's not about race. It's about the ability for these communities to integrate into our way of life, which I believe very strongly is vastly driven by white British culture and has been successful for decades in the past. Why is it not working now? So frankly, Trump's ban is a welcome first step in shifting the Overton window. But we need a period of zero immigration into Britain, just purely, at this point, simply to recover. Your personal data could be exposed right now without you even knowing it. And if you want it removed, use incogni.com/GB News in the description now and get 60% off an annual plan on us. Incogni reach out to the data brokers on your behalf and request that your information be deleted from their databases. And they'll keep sending removal requests to make sure your data stays gone. Sometimes your information ends up on strange, obscure websites that automated tools just can't reach. And that's why Incogni just launched their unlimited plan with a feature called Custom Removals. With this, you can submit any link where your personal information appears, literally paste in the URL, and their privacy team will investigate and work to get it removed. And getting started is super easy. Hit the link in the description, create an Incogni account, and tell them whose data you want removed. Grant them permission to work on your behalf, and then all you've got to do is sit back and relax. They'll keep you updated along the way. Incogni is totally risk-free for 30 days. If you try it, it's not for you, you'll get a full refund. So take back control of your personal data today with Incogni. Use our code GBNews at checkout via the link in the description, and you'll get 60% off an annual plan. I want to get the thoughts of my panel. Former Labour Party advisor Paul Richards, senior reporter at Guido Fawkes, Ellie Wheatley, and former Scotland Yard detective Peter Blexley. Peter, I'll start with you. Trump has made quite a bold statement here. These are things that we've never seen before from a president other than the previous president, Donald Trump, in his first term in office when he did something similar. Is he right to do this?
As a born and raised Londoner, who's now a minority in my own home city, I harbour considerable concerns about immigrants who do not integrate, who bring a culture here that is theirs and is foreign by nature and foreign in its very way of existing. I'm deeply concerned about that. So much of what President Trump says chimes with me. I think, although unfortunately, if we were to try and act something similar here, it would, of course, with this lamentable, weak, abysmal government, it would only be wishful thinking. The boats aren't stopping, the gangs aren't being smashed, there is illegal immigration into this country through many other means, and bit by bit, our values, our culture are being eroded. Yeah,
Paul, I'll come straight to you. Look, we're seeing a stronger message from Labour, a stronger message on immigration, on illegal migration. I'll hand them that. But of course, the British public need to see the proof. Do you think we need to go further? Look at those immigration figures the other night. I mean, when you take them at face value on the net, it looks pretty good. But when you break it down, we've got hundreds of thousands of British people leaving. Actually, it's always a net negative to Britain. Always, it seems to be the case.
Well, of course we need secure borders and we need a managed, ordered system of immigration and emigration too. And it needs to be legal and safe. And there needs to be safe routes for refugees too, because we do have international obligations. Peter's beloved city of London, I mean, I bow to no one in my love of London, founded by a bunch of Italians who turned up with their funny language and their funny food and their funny ways of doing things. And the story of London has been that waves of immigration coming in ever since the Romans and bringing little bits of culture that have added to London's story.
Do you think ever at this scale? At this scale,
yes,
Paul?
I do. And
do you think that millions of people have come to Britain and then most of them coming to places like London has been done before in history?
The first generation, they speak their own language, they have their own signs on the shops and they keep themselves to themselves. In the second generation, they're as British can be. And for Trump to do this, I think is balmy. The whole of America is founded on the principle, as Ronald Reagan said, you can't become French, you can't become German, but you can become American.
All those countries you just listed aren't third world countries.
Well, what do you mean by a third world country? I mean, some of these countries have got growth rates that we would die for. Ethiopia's got an 8.1 GDP growth rate. We've got 1.5 if we're lucky.
Yeah, but look at the base that Ethiopia started from.
Rwanda's got 7.8. They're all on the march.
Look at the base point that Ethiopia started from. I could go to Ethiopia and buy a full Cortina, and that would increase their growth rate by about goodness knows how much.
500 quid is a year's salary in Ethiopia.
As you've been to Africa, Peter, you know full well they are growing. They've got cities growing. They've got a middle class. They've got money. These are not the sort of when you say the third world, we're sort of imagining people in deserts in tents. This is growing economies, and we're going to be in hock to them because they're doing better than us in some ways.
All right, Ellie. You can come back to some Paul stuff and be like, I've got loads to say.
I think Trump's reaction to the horrific murder of this National Guard member was really striking to see, actually. It was so different to what we see from this Labour government. Because actually, when I saw that story, I thought, sadly, I see this story all the time in the UK. I mean, there was that man in Uxbridge who was stabbed to death 14 times, and the man facing trial for this was an Afghan migrant. Just a few weeks after that, a failed asylum seeker from Afghan was also charged with murder. We see this all the time, and I think it's quite simple, really. We have to deport foreign criminals, which is, by the way, not controversial. Labour have literally said they would do that, but we haven't really seen much of it. Detain asylum seekers that come here illegally via the small boats, which is another policy that the Tories have actually proposed. And we've got to really crack down on this sort of thing as an individual basis, by the way. And I think it's quite difficult to paint a whole group, a whole nation with the same brush, because actually, as we know in the UK, that we have a whole load of immigrants here from various different countries that are very much British, and we shouldn't tar them with all the same brush.
I agree with that. My issue is the rate of immigration in Britain. It's just so rapid, and I strongly believe it is leading to the dilapidation of our country. Our social cohesion is at. I went to Krakow a few weeks ago. The social cohesion there is incredible. There was no issues, and a lot of people credit that with the strong economic growth they're getting, because they don't have to focus, Peter, on cultural wars and fixing social problems, because they have had strong borders, they've had a strong national identity, and the people there work in tandem, hence why they're probably going to outgrow us in the next few years.
And Krakow is a beautiful city that I went to not long ago, and on speaking to a cab driver there, I said, how is it that we feel so safe when we're walking home at night, having had a few drinks? How come that my wife is happy to walk down the shop on her own and feels entirely safe in this city? And he says it is because of our shared culture.
Yep.
He said that is the very strong point that they have. With so many different cultures now, not coexisting, but existing independently, but within the same city, it is clear. And look at a problem that's arisen this week, and it's called pan. I guess I'm getting the pronunciation right. Something which is chewed and then spat out.
Yes.
There was a Labour councillor posted only the other day of the amount of money that they are having to apply to having this cleaned up. It is disgusting, it is hideous, it is not British, and spitting in the street when I was a child was deeply, deeply frowned upon. Now we've got people gobbing industrial quantities of this vile mess throughout so many parts of our cities.
And on Peter's point, things like that, Paul, I think happen because when you are not surrounded by mostly British people, you're not going to inherit their cultural values. These sort of practices only emerge time and time again when there's a ghettoisation, which Baroness Casey identified and others have identified. Even the Prime Minister said we're at risk of becoming an island of strangers, and I think he's right about that.
I think that you have to draw a distinction between genuine ghettoisation, where people don't speak English at all and are totally, like an enclave of a foreign country, and places where they have a sort of a flavour of that country, but people are integrated. So, the Koreans in South London, or the Jews in North London, or the Australians around Earl's Court, or whatever it might be, or the Bangladeshis in Brick Lane, they bring a kind of flavour to it, a kind of bit of cosmopolitan.
Tell me what's brought a flavour to Eastbourne, where you live, please. I'm dying to hear.
Well, that's part of the world where it's predominantly white, but that's.
So you're giving me lessons now on my home city when you live from the comfortable of the snow white driven Eastbourne.
But I come into London and enjoy it far more because of that cultural diversity. Because I can get any kind of food I want. I can see any kind of music I like, and talk to people from all over the world. That's what makes London great.
All right, very brief wrap up.
I think, to be honest, though, the bigger issue is that 262,000 British nationals left in the year to June. These people are fleeing, and they were from 20 to 45 years old, and they are leaving Labour's Britain. So we've got to make sure that we're actually keeping British people in the UK as well.
Yes, yeah. And what happens is when they leave, we replace them with cheap foreign labour, and with the collapsing birth rate, actually we're not going to see young British people in this country if they keep on leaving at the rates they are. There we go.